It doesn't say we're live. Are we live?
We're live. We're live.
Okay, we're live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is 11 and it's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's time for Elevenses. That's why we call it. That's why we have it at 11. That's why we call it Elevenses. With the reps at Diesel Bookstore. Welcome every week. We get together here and we have a beverage, the tea or something stronger, the snack, and we talk with our publishing professionals and booksellers who are also publishing professionals, I guess, in a way, about new, upcoming, recently released titles, things we're excited about and want to talk more about. And this is, of course, like the big season for us. It's we have our indie bookstore day in the spring, and we have the holiday season, which is huge and fun and really exciting time to be in a bookstore and to be talking about books. And the bookstore is just a fun place to be. Lots of fun things to talk about. And our publishers reps here have a lot to talk about here in the holiday season. We're off and running. So joining us today to discuss all of those books, we've got Dave Ehrlich from Chronicle Books. We've got Will Gawronski joining us from Columbia University Press Consortium, and Patricia Nelson joining us from Princeton University Press. And we have lovely Lynn from Diesel up there in Brentwood, and literally in Brentwood in the office. I can see the sign behind you, Lynn. And behind the scenes, we have Joey posting links to all of the books we're going to talk about today. And also, please feel free to make comments, questions. If you have any questions, anything you want to know more about, go ahead and post that in the chat box over there, and we will happily answer those questions for you. If we have the answers, if we don't have the answers, we'll make it up. We're just storytellers. No, Patricia knows the answer. I'll tell you right now, whatever the question is, Patricia knows. If it's book related, Patricia knows the answer. All right. All right, we've got lots to talk about today. So why don't we get started and with Dave, who's probably going to make us all hungry.
That's right. You know how I do this. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. Hello, Diesel. I'm going to start today with a beautiful release from our fall list from Hardy Grant Publishers, which is one of the Chronicle Books distributed publishers. This is the just unbelievably sumptuous Desi Bakes, which comes to us from Hetal Vasavada. She is the creator of Milk and Cardamom, a successful blog and also a cookbook of the same name. And what she does is she innovatively weaves together South Asian flavors, a lot of kind of Indian flavor profiles, and then techniques with classic Western treats and sweets. I'm going to walk you through some of this in here. It's really one of the most visually beautiful cookbooks I've seen in many seasons from us. It's really, it's spectacular. I can't believe the colors that she gets on these bakes. These are all things that we know, but with this like remarkable fusion of Indian flavors and influence and design. She takes a lot from Indian textiles and art, a lot of things with patterns and color combinations, and then just sort of creates these bakes that you can do yourself at home. And I'm going to give you a little information on Hetal after I kind of run you through some of these remarkable things. What I'm showing you here, you can do this, I swear, not this intimidating. These are called pulkarios. They are Oreo-style sandwich cookies decorated with pulkari designs. Pulkari is an embroidered textile made in Punjab and more specifically found in Patalia. It means flower work, so it looks like colorful embroidery on your cookies, but done in a sort of Oreo type of cookie cake. These are Madras print checkerboard cookies. I don't know how bright this looks on your end, but on the book inks, it's really vivid, beautiful, kind of orange, yellow, magenta, kind of checkerboard square cookies, really beautiful. These, I think, are maybe one of the prettiest things in the book. Cardamom and brown butter sandwich cookies are just, she has a real touch for color, for sort of accenting these things with just the right pop of color or pattern. And I think that they're again, these are not impossible to make. I think the instructions they're not for a beginner baker. You obviously have to have some kind of baking experience here. But I also want to show you another way that she combines colors in a really innovative way here, and also pays homage. This is the Kesar Pista Cream Puff, which means saffron and pistachio. And again, she takes her colors and color kind of combinations out of like classic Indian textiles and designs. She, like I said, did the Milk and Cardamom blog. She grew up in New Jersey and just grew up eating things like cardamom spiced shortbreads, sweet puddings, and chai. She moved cross country and eventually wound up on Gordon Ramsay's MasterChef, where she was the show's first Hindu vegetarian contestant. So I think this is a truly unique baking book for the season, a way to kind of take your holiday gatherings and give them a whole new flavor. This is a $35 hardcover from Hardy Grant and Chronicle Books.
It is such a beautiful book. Of course, I was so excited when I saw that come in. I was like, yes, this has got my name on it. I say that about a lot of cookbooks, but this one is really, it's so much fun to just look through it. And enjoy the art, the photography. I've spoken to a lot of people lately who say that they really enjoy just reading cookbooks, even if they don't feel like they're really accomplished cooks in any way, but they just love reading through cookbooks, and they are so beautiful right now. And not only are they beautiful, but cookbook authors and publishers are really looking for new and innovative ways to present cookbooks with different angles and cultures and ingredients. And this is a really great example of that. So
yeah, her writing in here, she does a lot of writing about her family and her heritage.
Right.
There's a lot of stories about her grandmother. And so, when she does something in a recipe and there's a certain design or an homage to something, then she explains where that comes from and kind of how it comes out of her life and her heritage, which makes her a really great read between the recipes.
Yeah, absolutely. Gorgeous. And just a beautiful, it's a book we just want to display all the time because it's just so gorgeous. It's good looking. Thank you, Dave. All right, now we're hungry. Will's gonna come maybe an appetite suppressant. I don't know.
No. I'm actually partially because I knew Dave was going to be here, so I'm doing a repeat today, which is a beautiful food-related book. The
I
World
love
Atlas
this
of
one so
Honey.
much.
So I talked about this a couple of my Elevenses ago when I was on here, which was like a month and a half ago. But the world's changed since then, so maybe you don't remember.
And we need more honey.
Right, exactly. So, and it's coming into the holidays, so I wanted to show this off again, and I'm so happy that I have a physical copy that I can show because I rarely do. So this is a book written by a honey sommelier, which is actually a thing. So she has a background in this, and she travels the world and looks at the different types of honey that are produced around the world and their histories, what they're used for culturally, but also the different flavors, the different scents, the colors, the textures, how it's all a variety. And most people who are listening to this are probably more knowledgeable about natural history than I am, but I didn't realize that honey was such a universal thing. I always thought that like strawberries, that it only came from certain parts of the world, but apparently not, because this is a genuine atlas, and she goes through all over the world, from Finland to the Middle East, and the illustrations are beautiful. So here's the title page. But then in the very beginning, she gets into this introduction to honey, its cultural history, all kinds of information about that, which is completely fascinating. And, how honey is produced. She looks at different types of the histories of bees, honey and art, and beekeeping. And then she gets into the actual things that are familiar to us from reading books about wine or coffee, the terroir of honey, and looking at soil quality and where plants are grown and how that affects things. There are flavor wheels, and she also gets into the color charts of honey, all of the different colors and what that might represent, as well as, viscosity and that kind of thing. Here's the big flavor wheel. that's in here. And then she goes country by country. So here's Argentina and looks at the different plant lives that's there and what types of bees are going there and how that affects the quality of the honey that comes from there. Here's Iceland. So, places I never really knew produce honey. So there's a section on Africa in the back, and it goes kind of geographically around the world. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, India. Very thorough. It's just a wonderful, spectacular book. And I think for people who are interested, if you're buying this as a gift in food, obviously, or beekeeping, which a lot of people are interested in that, but also natural history and plant life and all of that, I just think it's a great holiday gift. It's $35, which is actually quite the steal for what it is. It's just a really gorgeous looking book.
Okay, so Will, I don't have my copy of this book yet. I saw so Will had the book at you've heard us talk before about the trade show, the Kaliba trade show where we all periodically see each other in the flesh like twice a year, and Will had this book and it is so gorgeous, and I just made a plan to obtain it for myself at some point. I don't have it yet, and you've just reminded me I need to add it to the list along with everything else. I'm a big honey fan. We talked about Manuka honey last time and all of the healing properties of Manuka honey. It's not woo woo, like it really does work for some things. So I'm super excited about this book. Great gift for many people that for sure, and totally affordable. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one moving out over the holidays. Thank you, Will. I'm so glad you decided to do this again.
Sure.
All right, Patricia.
Yeah, I love the idea of a honey sommelier. How extraordinary.
Isn't that great? I just love it.
Yes. What a task. Well, I wanted to start out.
A friend was raising bees. Sorry, Patricia. A friend was raising bees and was making honey. He gave up on it because it was too hard. But before he did, he had some honey, and it was very fresh. And he sent me some, and I tasted the honey. And this is an actual fact. Another little plug for the book, Will. I could taste the flowers that they used, to make their honey. It was pretty extraordinary. So a honey sommelier, I think I want that job. Anyway, sorry, Patricia, go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to start out by reminding us and reminding myself that it's University Press Week. We're sort of distracted at University Press, and even I am catching up. I think we need better PR. But the theme this year is Step Up. UP is up. And just reminding us of all that we're doing to enlighten, motivate, inspire, support, and act, as the executive director has said. And it's an interesting time, I think, to think about what University Press has to offer us at this particular moment. And it's offering me a book that I've been madly waiting for, which is called The Study. The book is just incredibly beautiful. The Inner Life of Renaissance Libraries. It's a gorgeously written book about the Renaissance studiolo, taking us back to around the 1400s, perhaps. Spaces dedicated to self-cultivation, a little studio. And the book itself is just a celebration of bibliophilia and a critique of bibliomania, if we must critique it, and incorporates many perspectives from Islam, from Mughal Empire, from Chinese book cultures. There's lots about the Chinese garden, the Chinese scholar throughout. The author is a young and brilliant scholar. He's from Singapore. And the book just reads with extraordinary erudition. It is a book about the life of the insatiable bookworm. Humanists from Petrarch to Machiavelli to Montaigne. There's quite a lot about Montaigne. Begins with thinking about the lists of books that we make and what we want to read. He himself is quite insatiable. He talks about the Japanese word sunduko, buying books and not reading them. He approaches this idea, as he says, transhistorically, our inner lives shaped by our interior spaces, historically taking us deep into the studiolo and the Renaissance, conceptually as a place that is both cure and poison for the soul. There's a nice color section in the book, this being Montaigne and Montaigne's, these are the rafters of Montaigne's tower top study. And the rafters are famously inscribed with the ancients and quotes from the Bible. Of course, we would be thinking about etchings of Durer, images of St. Jerome. I always liked St. Jerome, patron saint of translation and featured often in a library, and so frequently. And I have a collection of these to bring out for the holidays. The images, if you can see it at all, of the Annunciation, in which the Virgin is surrounded by books in her own library. I think that's quite wonderful. The book has been just kind of interweaves a lot of different images. It shows us mythical figures like Don Quixote and Faust and Prospero. It's got some unexpected moments. He talks about when you read a book and suddenly somehow that particular book just feels like an epiphany to you. A sudden frisson comes over you, he says, quoting Montaigne and at length. And that this feeling that these words were meant for you, he connects to a Chinese term and gives us the calligraphy, meaning one who knows the tune, as if that book knows your inner music. He goes in many directions, but brings us to the invisible libraries, to the sense that our own library is a microcosm of all books. It's very Borgesian. It's Tower of Babel. It's a very satisfying book. It has a gorgeous endorsement by Alberto Manguel, a jewel of a book, tracing our timeless bond with that magical space that mirrors both the reader and the stormy world beyond the page. So,
what a fantastic book, and what a perfect venue for it, and what a great gift. Can I just see can you hold the book up for a second, Patricia? I'm having Crowdcast has decided not to show me things. It's gorgeous. That's a really gorgeous book. Another fabulous gift. They're stacking up, folks. Yeah. Beautiful. We always around this time of year have a dedicated display to bookish books, appealing to bookish people, and that's definitely one that goes on the stack. So, all right, so far I have 3 books for myself and nobody else. Perfect. Good average. All right, Lynn is and Lynn is presenting a book. I'm pretty excited because it came out a while ago, but we haven't talked about it yet. So go for it, Lynn.
I am going to talk about The Mighty Red by Louise Erdrich. I think it's a great book recommendation for right now. It's perfect time for it. I've just read it in the past week. I can't not understand why it took me this long. It's been out a few weeks to actually get to this book. But it's beautiful. It takes place. I don't know if you're a fan of Louise Erdrich, or if you had a chance to read much of her. I've read a lot of her, and I love her writing. It takes place present day North Dakota, by the Red River. And it's about a community, family, fortitude, and she addresses everything. She describes everything, or just sort of puts it out there in a very comforting and tender way. And it's just the perfect medicine for me right now. I'm loving every page. The characters, whether they're likable or not, for some reason, she makes them likable. Even Pastor Friendly, who is anything but, drops in for tea. She just gives him little character things that just make him, so likable, or at least you could empathize with him. But it's a lovely story, mother, daughter, family, and it's about just living in this community up in North Dakota, people of significant means and people of, who live in poverty. And it really gives you hope about it. She talks a lot about overcoming struggles. Rather say, actually, I said she talks a lot about it. You read a lot about the struggles. You read a lot about overcoming them, and there's a very positive note to that. The main character, Kismet, just out of high school, she's a brilliant girl. She's tried her whole life to excel so that she can get a good scholarship. She's in high school, with a bunch of friends who are like-minded as she is, just really ambitious. And it's not that they're dying to get out of their small town. They just want to make this town the best it can be, or themselves the best that they can be within this town. And I just think it's wonderful. And I can't say enough about the word tender and her handling of conversation, humor, animosity, tragedy. There's something about it. I feel very well taken care of, and which is not the responsibility of a book, nor do I hold a book up to that. But I feel very taken care of. Like I am just settled into a weighted blanket or a sleeping bag and a great pillow. And whatever she gives me, whatever there is going on, I know that I'm not going to fall off the cliff, that I'm in good hands with Ehrlich. So I highly recommend it. And again, I have found it's a really good customer recommendation for right now, for people who want a book that is uplifting and lovely. And that sounds reductive because it's so much more than that. But I'm very, very strong.
Yeah,
like
Louise Erdrich is wonderful. You said you don't know if people like her. I mean, I don't know how you can not like Louise Erdrich. I don't know. I know people who are unfamiliar with her, but I don't know anybody who's read her or doesn't like her.
Yeah.
She's got beautiful writing. She writes so well about Native American communities in that area. She's done it before in her previous books, and I feel like I was doubly glad that you were talking about this today, because I feel like this release, which is a big release, like any other year, would have been a huge, book event with the Louise Erdrich new release. But I feel like it got a little bit overshadowed, like everything else got overshadowed in the last few months. So, now that we're like emerging from all of that, wanting really good books to escape into, I think this is great. So let's not forget about it. Thanks, Lynn. Perfect.
Excellent gift.
Yes, another excellent gift. Everything, I'm just going to say it, we talk about today is an excellent gift. Just by the way. All right, Dave, back to you with another, I'm sure, excellent gift.
Okay, this one is pretty sumptuous, so get ready. I'm going to talk today about a book that you actually have an event in Brentwood for next week. Since I'm not appearing next week, I'm going to take this week as a chance to plug this. This will be next Thursday night, the 21st, out in Brentwood. And we're going to have author Richard Christensen from Flamingo Estate speaking about and signing copies of The Guide to Becoming Alive. This is literally, I hate the word literally our number one high priority A+ book for the season. This is the ultimate gift book that Chronicle is putting out. You can see it's hefty, oversized, absolutely just packed. And I'm going to try to give you an idea of what this is about. It's quite esoteric. And it's quite sprawling. So as you can tell from the book dimensions and size. Richard is Australian. He has come to America, been here for many years. He did a creative company out in Highland Park called Owl Creative. And all this time he has lived in Flamingo Estate, which I'm going to show you a picture of. This is a beautiful garden estate up in the Hollywood Hills that Richard lives in with his husband, their dogs, a bunch of chickens, bees and goats. I wanted to get the menagerie correctly here. He believes that pleasure is a radical act, and he believes that in order to kind of come back to ourselves in these times of just being so fragmented, so overwhelmed with the world, with work, with media, all these things that are not natural and not of the natural world, he believes the way to come back to ourselves and find kind of artistic inspiration and connection is through nature. And so Flamingo Estate, the estate itself, creates luxury products, which are available in stores all over Los Angeles, probably in the Brentwood Country Mart if I did some digging nearby, and also down in Del Mar. I'm sure that there are plenty of retailers in the San Diego area carrying Flamingo Estate luxury goods. But this book is just, I know I'm rambling, but it's so many things. It's Richard talking about the estate, how the products were created, but then he goes and he does these remarkable interviews, speaking to such friends of his as Jane Goodall, Alice Waters, Martha Stewart, Jane Fonda, Ellen DeGeneres, Chrissy Teigen, and John Legend. There's about 40 more people here that Richard is connected to and knows, and they all discuss nature and the ways in which they turn to the natural world for artistic inspiration, for kind of regeneration, and just to stimulate themselves. This is Richard here in his beautiful home with one of his dogs. There are a lot of pictures in the book of Richard and his dogs, but I would do that too if I lived at Flamingo Estate. I want to read you how he describes his aesthetic and what he does from the intro of the book really quickly here. High atop the hills of Los Angeles, hidden by a lush orchard and dense gardens, Flamingo Estate is a hedonistic enclave of sun worship, folk mythologies, and psychedelic remedies. For a few years, this place was simply my home. After decades building a career of endless airports and sleepless nights, my life changed when I started looking around me, when I began listening to the lessons from the garden. I learned from the stone fruit the importance of winter, from the sagebrush the sacred power of scent, the sunsets, color theory, and aesthetic sustenance, the moth, the sweet sanctum of moonlight, the garlic, generosity and variety. By watching the paperwhites reaching up towards the sun, I learned that life was meant to be lived and not just endured. So, I mean, the book is massive and there's so much to show you, but there's beautiful spreads of Richard's life, his friends, his creative kind of efforts, just the remarkable things that have come out of Flamingo Estate and the ways in which you can sort of achieve this way of living yourself through reconnecting with nature and just pulling back and finding the simple things that you can be rejuvenated by. It's just a wild book. Please, if you find this in the store, if you're shopping, take a look at it and just dive right in. I hope everybody can make it out next Thursday on the 20th, or week from Thursday on the 21st at Brentwood to meet Richard and celebrate the publication of Flamingo Estate, Guide to Becoming Alive.
That's going to be a great event, I think. Fantastic. And this is the kind of book that we put out, like, we're like, oh, it's such a cool book. And we put it out as our book of the day and it's gone like 5 minutes later. That's just sort of the kind of book that it is. So, wonderful. I'm sure I can't see because my screen is somewhat frozen here, but I'm sure Joey has posted the link to the event that I can't see already. And so we'll definitely look forward to that, and we'll be talking about it again next week probably as well. Cool. So thank you, Dave. Perfect.
Thank you.
Will, back to you.
Okay, what a beautiful book, and that's going to make for a great event, I'm sure. So have a terrific event. And Patricia, I wanted to say I loved your book that you were showing, and I'm glad you held up the cover because I was misunderstanding what the cover looked like until you held it up. But that red border is actually part of the book, right?
Yeah.
I love that. um, so my next book is new from University of California Press. The Serpent and the Fire is the title, and the subtitle is Poetries of the Americas from the Origins to the Present. So this slightly ties in with what Dave was talking about in the sense that it's a local context for what this is. So this is a new anthology put together by Jerome Rothenberg, the very famous poet and translator, anthologist, and scholar who was at UCSD and just left us. He just passed away in May, I think, at the age of 92. So very long life. He's famous for sort of coining the terms ethnopoetics, and he did a book that University of California Press published in the 70s that still continues to sell in various editions called Technicians of the Sacred. One of his big things is to sort of look at the impact of poetry to culture, to the way that we understand each other across cultural lines. This is the perfect final project for him to have done. It's a huge book. It's 800 plus pages, and it's an anthology, as the title and subtitle sort of tells you, of poetry that goes chronologically throughout the Americas, so Canada, North America, Central America, South America, across all different lines. So there's indigenous poets from the Inuit through South America. There's translations from Spanish, from French, from Portuguese, from German, things that were written in English, of course. It's just this massive, incredible survey of poetry, the likes of which I kind of have never seen before. And I don't have a copy of it, unfortunately, to show you, but it also has illustrations, and each of the poems that he selects has a commentary where he sort of puts it into context and tells you a little bit about what's going on here and the historical moment that these things were written in. I just think it's going to be another fantastic book for that's not it. The different one. I think it's going to be a fantastic looking book and just a great hit for, thank you, for people who are looking for poetry, for people who are interested in, Latin American culture, indigenous culture, anything like that. It's just, it's a wonderful gift. It's a doorstopper, it's 800 and some pages. And it's, again, $34.95, I think is the price. So, good price for what it is.
It's a great price for what it is, and I always appreciate. We talked about this last week and probably the week before as well. Always appreciate, we like to sprinkle in poetry and kids books, and especially now that's a good time for the kids books. But poetry. One of these days we're gonna have like an all poetry Elevenses, which is gonna be fun. It's on the list of Elevenses to have. But this is what a great price for what you're getting here. So this is fantastic. A fantastic book and a great gift. So thank you, Will.
Sure.
All right, Patricia.
Well, of course, very University Press to look at primary texts, the heart of the humanities. And I'm thinking how we're returning to these old stories in times of comfort reading. Bookseller up at University Bookstore in Seattle is starting a reading circle around Middlemarch. This morning I saw that posting. And I was reading something about the great raconteur Jim Harrison. He was staying up extra late at night in Montana with his dogs, drinking by the fire and reading Virgil. So we have a new book on reading the Odyssey. It's a very handsome, literary criticism, tour of the narrative, a study of the Odyssey as a story that we read again and again, or even if we don't know it, we're probably living that story of misadventure and return. This book wakes it up in your mind. You just have to get out one of your translations of Homer. It might be Peter Green or Robert Fagles. It might be Emily Wilson, but you might have several. And this particular book is a history of the epic's reception and interpretation and its place in cultural and intellectual history, its influence on literature and film and art. It's really a tour of the epic. It, as a scholarly book, it's not packed with color, but it does have reminders of great artists. Here is Picasso on Odysseus and the Sirens. I love this Chirico painting in which Odysseus is rowing himself across the carpet in the room in a surrealist manner. There's a Romar Bearden also. He kind of takes us through the Odyssey up into the 21st century, giving us kind of a vast terrain and helping us to remember so many moments. So remembering Aeolus giving Odysseus that bag of ill wind, and of course, like Pandora, they couldn't help themselves. They opened the bag and threw themselves off course forever, and so it begins. And the incredible touching scenes, the coming home to the dog Argos, Argos, and the old nanny, the old servant who recognizes him by his scars. And I think Penelope, of course, in my mind, Penelope is the heart of the entire book.
Me too, Patricia. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm like holding
and demanding that Odysseus prove his knowledge. I had the great pleasure of being in Rome this year and had to buy books there. And naturally, at a great cost, I've had to buy this book. I think it's one of yours, Will. Ithaca Forever. This is just wonderful, by Luigi Malerba. And it tells the story from Penelope's point of view, that she was in fact never deceived by Odysseus in his rags, but was watching him rather coolly from a distance. So we're reminded of, Joyce's Ulysses, of Margaret Atwood, and just the book is filled with unexpected moments, and especially becoming current again. There's a nice anecdote from the New York Times from Whitehorse, the Yukon Territory, some boys in a saloon talking about a local woman who won a lottery. The consensus, they were wondering what she would do. "What I'd do," said one, "is tie a snow shovel to the hood of my car and drive south until nobody had the faintest idea what the damn thing is." So if you remember taking the oar as far as you could from the sea until nobody knew what it was. Again, we're kind of in search of comfort food and comfort streaming. So I'm going to recommend the BBC miniseries from 1997, which is absolutely wonderful, on the Odyssey. It has Armand Assante as Odysseus, Greta Scacchi as Penelope, Isabella Rossellini is in it, Bernadette Peters, Irene Pappas. So if you need something to remind you of the Odyssey and to distract you, I would recommend that.
That was so much fun. That I remember that Armand Assante is. Did anybody else here watch that? No, just me and Patricia. It was great.
It's like Jason and the Argonauts or something. You have to watch it. It's full of fabulous moments and great actors just appearing out of nowhere in the clouds.
I had totally forgotten about that, Patricia, until you mentioned it. But I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna look it up also. This is a great book, really exciting. And you mentioned Middlemarch, which is really funny because just the other day, this is definitely a trend, this guy came into the store and he looked really pretty grizzled, and he had a certain look, and he was like sort of scratching his head and like walking around and youngish, and he said he's getting ready to get in an 18-wheeler and drive to Florida with a bunch of furniture. He's helping somebody move to Florida, and he just sort of was wandering around waiting for his buddy to get done somewhere else. He's like, yeah, I've been like thinking about rereading all of the old stuff. And I was like, oh, how old? He goes, well, I'm reading Middlemarch right now. Okay. And then we went from Middlemarch, and I took him right over to the Odyssey. I'm like, here, let's look at this again. So this is perfect. Obviously, it's in the air. Great book, Patricia. What fun. Thank you. All right, Lynn.
Can you? Oh, well. So, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, the last book that I'm doing is The Complete Stories of Edgar Allan Poe. It's an Everyman Library publication, and it's gorgeous. If anyone in my family is watching and would consider this as a gift, something that would be on my list, I absolutely love it. I love also it's very nice and compact, so I love the packaging of it very much. Nice, compact. For the complete stories of Edgar Allan Poe, you could have a tome, and this isn't. It's a nice, healthy book, but it's one that can be carried around, read in bed, read laying down, sitting up, and it's just gorgeous. One thing that I happen to notice now that I am aging is the print is great. For those of you, I don't even need my reading glasses with this, which was a big surprise. I would get a magnifying glass if I needed to read this book and to have it into my library. But the print is beautiful, it's easy to read, and I think Poe is perfect for any time, day, night, no matter what we're going through as a civilization, as a community. I just love reading Poe. So I highly recommend this book. Definitely give it to some loved ones, buy it for yourself, which is what I think I'll end up doing.
Yeah. No, we have I'm sure both stores do, have a Everyman Library display. Love these books so much. They're such beautiful books. And they're also like the trim size, like you said, is nice. It's not like a really super big or bulky book, and it feels good in the hand. You can carry it around, kind of a thing. And I agree with you that there's never a bad time for Poe. And it's another one of those classics, as Patricia was saying, that's worth revisiting and looking at again in light of where you are and what's happening around you. Seeing things from these different perspectives is enlightening, I think, and we could all use a bit of that, even if it's only in a wow, look, history does repeat itself kind of way. But Poe's really fun. Really fun to read. Never a bad time for that. So, and I love those editions. So thank you for that, Lynn. Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. Final round. Dave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Lynn, thank you for the excellent segue into what I'm talking about next. I was concerned about doing something too Halloween-like or gothy, and then I realized it's never not Halloween in my head,
Never.
in my world.
Yeah.
And so we have a book that is quite morbid and weird, and I probably should have talked about this leading up to Halloween, but I'm going to do it today. And Edgar Allan Poe is a beautiful lead-in, so thank you. I'm going to present The Witch's Door. This comes to us from Chronicle Prism, one of our in-house imprints. We do nonfiction through that imprint. And this is remarkable. It is a collection of oddities and tales from the esoteric to the extreme from Ryan Matthew Cohn and Regina M. Rossi. They are the founders of a traveling high-end art market that's called Oddities Flea Market, which exhibits all over the country. It was just in LA a couple of weeks ago. It has been to Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and beyond. And what Ryan and Regina collect and what the book is about are bizarre collections of anatomical figures, usually created in wax, things like collections of bones and skulls, teeth, all kinds of morbid, like memento mori ephemera. The book talks about how they built their collection, all the unbelievable people and places they've gone to build this collection, people that are collectors, hoarders, aficionados of just darkness and weirdness. And the way this is written by Ryan and Regina, just is this first person account, of unearthing these collections, the way that they've been contacted by people through the years to unload these unbelievable things, it's a fascinating read. And it's written in a really, almost like a thriller. As you read it, you're delving into these like incredibly unusual collections that they've acquired. Things like a rare collection of anatomical wax figures for sale in Munich, a taxidermy monkey named Mr. Peepers. What else could he be named? A Tibetan Kapala skull decorated with bits of coral and jewels. That's a skull used in Tibetan funerals and ceremonies. 2 Charlie McCarthy dolls that may or may not be haunted. That's one of my favorites. I'll let you be the judge. Those are the 2 terrifying Charlie McCarthy dolls in the collection. An amazing just wealth of strange things, and an actual witch's door, which is where the title of the book comes from. Ryan comes from the world of kind of curating and collecting. Regina comes from the world of fashion. And I think that what they're doing in this kind of oddities flea market that travels the country is exactly like a fusion of those things. Collecting these objects, what they mean to us, and just how they came upon these really bizarre things. Here is an anatomical wax figure from the collection, the one they acquired in Munich. I think if you know the Mutter Museum, I want to say that's in Philadelphia, is that right? If you know Mutter Museum, or you know any of the calendars and books that they used to do, there's been a lot of books like these over the years, but this is just a remarkable journey with them. They did a really great launch event a couple weeks ago at the newly refurbished Clifton's space downtown, and it was like the perfect setting to have them in. Dark and arcane and mysterious, just like the book. So this is out now, $30 hardcover from Chronicle Prism, a really fun and spooky read.
Really fun. And again, it doesn't matter that Halloween's come and gone. It's still totally, absolutely. It's a year-round deal. So, and that also, I think, a great gift idea. I personally know at least 3 people who would love to have this book. So thank you, Dave. All right, Will, your last book.
So even though I didn't see a picture of it, I think Mr. Peepers is going to show up in my dreams. Just the idea of like a monkey named Mr. Peepers gives me
what else could he be called, really?
Okay. So my last book of the day is also from University of California Press. It is Hoofbeats: How Horses Shaped Human History. Very excited about this book. It has a beautiful cover with this kind of spot gloss title in red. And I don't know what this is. It's like some kind of, the texture of the jacket itself is actually really interesting. I can't tell you what it is, but it's not horse. It's something like that's a little different from the usual. So this is a great read. It's William Taylor teaches in Colorado and is also a curator at the Natural History Museum there. So this is both a big, broad history of the intersection between human history and horse history, but also this kind of wonderful sort of archaeology, Indiana Jones kind of story, where he goes around the world and shows you all of these artifacts of what we know about the origins of horses. There are some beautiful illustrations throughout, and there's also drawings, of the horses, but there's also this kind of archaeological finds. There's images of the cave paintings in France, Egyptian images of horses and what they meant for their culture. And then there's these just great maps that he has that show you the spread of domesticated horses in various directions and how it impacted everything from, the migration of people and the Silk Road and this kind of stuff that shows you timelines of when things moved along. And also there's a whole section of the book that's about the moving of horses on ships and how that spread domesticated horses around the world, which I thought was incredibly interesting. And then he's got, in that same section, images of burial practices that the Vikings did with horses, where there were ships that were buried with horse remains in them. But this is one of the images of the shipping routes of the horses and where they came from and where they went. Totally fascinating. So if obviously for people who like horses who are on your list, this is a great one for them. Um, there's a lot on riding and the history of that, but there's also things about carts and chariots and horses and buggies and all of that kind of thing too. Um, so for the horse lover, for archaeology people, for sort of someone interested in global history of the intersection between a particular animal and our experiences, it's great. He's a wonderful writer. Just came out, and I think it's going to be a really strong book going into the holidays.
I have seen this book, and it is really great. Really, I picked it up right away. It's another one of those books that you pick up and you get into it right away. It just draws you right in. I Somebody recently did a display of like micro histories, and it's totally fascinating to see the different areas that really get like, when you drill down and look at every aspect of a particular whatever it is that you're writing about. And this one is so interesting, and so involving. So I think there's a lot of people who are on your list who would appreciate this book as well. Well, definitely. But really very involving and like super readable. At least it was for me. So excellent. Thank you. Well, Patricia, you're going to wrap us up for the day?
I guess so. I'm staying on my theme of reading and the humanities, and in a deep sense, taking care of ourselves, the importance of our solitude, taking care of one another. And I thought I'd bring forward a couple of older books, paperbacks now, but they just seem to speak to me always and now. One of them that I really love is called Lost in Thought by Zena Hitz. She's a former tutor at St. John's College. She was at the Annapolis campus, but there's also a St. John's campus here in Santa Fe. So, of course, that great books theme. She had a kind of a journey within herself to what she was going to do, and she ended up, most unusually, coming back to deep reading, away from the academy, and she offered this essay, which got a great deal of attention. Experiences of the inner life. This is really an essay that says it is necessary and important that we take ourselves seriously, and that inner journey, wherever it might lead us. Of course, we think of deep reading and again, that moment from Middlemarch or Marcus Aurelius, but it could be star watching or bird watching or slow stitching or all of the things that compel us. She draws on all kinds of examples, Socrates and Augustine, but also contemporary, Malcolm X and Elena Ferrante. It's a very appealing book about leading a good human life, a life in play, the dignity of learning, a refuge from the world. She has examples that are compelling, Russian poets, isolated and enduring without letters or news, but still yet the book. And her own life, being inspired, washing dishes and paying attention. So this is one that I recommend. And the other one, out in paper, I have the cloth, but it's out in paper, is Timefulness by Amarsha Bjornerud. Again, a very unusual book. This is a book by a geologist who is interested in expressing the time scale of our planet's history and the distinction, or what we can learn, juxtaposing our own time frame with the time frame of the universe. It's a view of Earth's history, of rhythms of the Earth's past, of conceiving of time as a geologist, but it's actually an intimate book about gaining perspective on a sustainable future. And as we come to any turning point or intense moment in our own experience, this wider framework is very rich. It calls for a geological literacy and a sense of how we're entangled in geologic time. It's very lyrical and passionate and unexpectedly and deeply hopeful. So a manifesto for humanity.
That's a perfect book to end on, I think, Patricia, and also completely fascinating. I would rather hear about time from a geologist than pretty much anybody else, because that is some time right there. And if you ever, I sort of accidentally studied geology for a minute as a grown person past the age of schooling. Long story, but that is a really fascinating insight into time through the history of Earth, and it's really great for perspective. So I'm going to look for that one. I'm excited. It's out in paper, and that's a
Oh
terrific book
yeah,
right now.
it's an
Yeah,
older book,
yeah,
but
wonderful.
take a deep breath and look at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, or even just go to the beach. Just go to the beach and see the different what's happening at the beach, and it really puts things in perspective. At least for a minute. And on that note, on the minute, we are there. But I do want to apologize briefly. Normally, I talk about upcoming events at the beginning of the show, but I just wanted to mention quickly, because I did not, that tomorrow at 6:30 in Brentwood, we are welcoming AC Robinson, who will be at the store discussing and signing Hardly Strangers. That's tomorrow at 6:30, and then on Tuesday, we are welcoming Georgia Jeffries to the store to discuss and sign The Younger Girl, A Dark Labyrinth of Family Betrayal. And joining her in conversation will be Amy Liu. So that's going to be next Thursday at 6:30. And I'm sorry, next Tuesday, the 19th. 30, and then tomorrow at 6:30 AC Robinson. So sorry about that. Joey's got the link up there for all of the events, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned that before we left today. And so thank you all so much for joining us, everybody who's watching today, but especially thank you to Dave Ehrlich from Chronicle Books, 2 weeks in a row. Thank you, Dave. Will Gawronski from Columbia University Press Consortium, Patricia Nelson, also 2 weeks in a row, from Princeton University Press. And thank you so much to Lynn up there in Brentwood, and Joey behind the scenes posting the links that for some reason I can't see today. But, there's always something, right? And thanks to everybody else. We will, for joining us today, we will be back again next week with more books, more reps, more booksellers, more book talk, and of course, more great gift ideas. So I hope you will join us all then. And until then, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.